and sit down.
And good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're watching from. Welcome back to another Three Bros Sports episode, or for the viewer or the listeners right now, the podcast. I'm Connor.
I'm Calvin.
I'm Isidore Fitzgerald. I had to have the fancy posh name for my fancy posh get up today.
Yeah.
You gotta be on TV, you gotta bring out the tuxedo t-shirt.
Yeah, whatever his name dressed up really nice.
Isidore. Say it with me.
Isidore. I
Fitzgerald.
apologize. Isidore Fitzgerald. I do apologize, Mr.
you.
Fitzgerald.
And you'll refer to me as such for the next 45 minutes or so.
How long did it take you to come up with that?
Well, it was about as long as it takes to find a random name generator on the internet.
Maybe you need to create your own website of
I was
that.
just like, fancy name generator. Okay. This matches my
Can we do that?
t-shirt.
Can we just make a list of like all of Brett's names?
Why not? Why not? We'll put that onto the Three Bros Sports website, threebrosports.com. You can find all the latest articles or our latest podcasts.
There'll be an article on there, Brett's top 5 alter egos.
And we have an action-packed show for you guys today. Brett Dawson from the Athletic LA. He's coming on to talk about the Lakers and Clippers season so far and for the playoffs. And also, my childhood idol growing up, Grant Napear. Turn the sprinkler systems on because he's on fire, or he's got smoke coming off his fingertips, and you put in a boogie and you send him to the line.
You gotta love when you bring more Bretts on the show. I mean, come on. And he spelled it right, too. He's got the
I
2
know.
T's in there. I mean, I don't talk to the people with the 1 T. Those are just phonies. I don't talk to them.
But Mr. Napier is going to be coming on as well to talk about the Kings season as of right now. They're kind of surprising some folks right now. I'm hoping I can buy into it. Maybe after our little conversation, you can convince me that the Kings actually will make the playoffs this year out of the whole cluster of teams out there. And since we have multiple guests coming on today, there will be no conspiracy theory this week. We may bring it back in a couple podcast or a couple episodes from now, but it's time to kind of diversify ourselves a little bit, as I think it's best to just jump straight into the icebox. Calvin, how are you feeling about just doing the icebox today?
Oh, I'm feeling just great about it.
Just peachy?
Yep.
Just icy?
Ooh.
I like that.
I like that. I like that, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you.
All right, so Calvin, on the icebox, what do you got for us today?
So this coming up week, we got 5 pretty good games, I think.
Pretty good.
We got the Carolina Hurricanes at the Pittsburgh Penguins on Sunday. Pretty big one for playoff implications, so you always got to watch out for that. Then we also got the Las Vegas Golden Knights against the Calgary Flames, which I don't think I've mentioned either of those two on the show yet.
I don't think so.
We
Those
got that
Golden
on
Knights
Sunday.
have some amazing halftime shows. Like
They
when they
really
have the
do.
Stanley Cup, like they go all out. Like if you're gonna go see a hockey game, yeah, well maybe if you happen to be in Vegas, okay, because I don't think people are randomly just going to hockey games. But if you're in Vegas,
I mean, like
there's a Knights game.
I love my Caps, and I love going to Caps games, but honestly, from what I've seen, Vegas is a great place to go
Yeah,
for
they
a
got
game.
like a fake castle on the ice out there. Got Knights ice skating around out there. It's freaking
It's
awesome.
pretty insane.
It's awesome.
Okay, what else you got?
And we actually have the Golden Knights again. They're going to the Edmonton Oilers on Monday. So back-to-back games for them against 2 teams that are about even with them and pretty big playoff implications for them. So definitely some games to watch out for, and it's a real challenge for the Golden Knights, even though, I mean, they haven't exactly been the same team they were in their first year of existence, but they're still a pretty good team nonetheless. And then we got the Boston Bruins at the Philadelphia Flyers on Tuesday. Another big one that could have some major playoff implications. We're starting to get down late in the year, so...
Man, the icebox is starting to thaw with these hot
Whoa.
picks.
Yeah, it really is.
It's melting. It's like,
Just wait till we get to the playoffs, man.
As you guys can tell right now, well, first off, maybe I should have given a better introduction about it. We are, as you can tell, we're not at the same location. We're at Delaware Technical Community College. We'd like to thank them so much for at least letting us use their equipment, the cameras, the microphones, everything, so we could be able to make this happen. And
Yes.
I guess at a new location, because it's not 7 a.m. in the morning as we normally would record it.
yeah, I'm actually.
Brett's got energy, folks. Or Mr. Fitzgerald has some energy.
Yeah, it's good.
Then, of course, our 5th game. I thought this was really good for a 5th game. This one's on Sunday. We got the Minnesota Wild at the Anaheim Ducks.
Minnesota Wild.
Your guys' team. And even though you're not the biggest hockey fans in the world.
But this is a game of the week. Like I'm pretty sure the Minnesota Wild haven't been doing too hot this season. Am I right on that?
Neither one of these teams has exactly. They've all been decent.
But tell me why it's a game of the week then.
Because this is your guys' team. This is the game that you guys need to watch.
Okay.
We're special. You get into hockey because this is you two against each other now.
Well, you can give me your 2 cents on this because I'm looking at the standings right now. In the Central Division, the Wild are above 2 other teams now.
They are.
They're above the Predators and the Blackhawks. Are both those teams garbage?
Blackhawks...
Just call them garbage.
Are they trash?
They're 2 teams that have talent, just have not been able to put it together for whatever reason. And particularly the Blackhawks. I don't know how they've been so bad, but they really
They're one of those teams. They were pretty good a few years back. Oh yeah, if I remember. Like
they won a Stanley Cup not that long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's just it amazes me because they got Patrick Kane on that team too, and they're just not doing anything.
Well, who knows about that? But if any of us really want to get into hockey, maybe we have to follow the players on video games. Maybe create a couple players. And if you guys know what I'm talking about Frankus McDizzle.
The more dynamic players.
Yeah.
Yes. It's quite dynamic.
It was Brett's creation of Mr. McDizzle, and apparently he's been taking the league over by storm.
Oh, yeah.
And we actually got a little video for you right now.
Yeah, we'll get it pulled up on the screen for you, but me and Connor will try to sync this up, both hit play at the same time. You want to give us a little countdown here?
Sure, why not?
All right.
3, 2, 1.
All right. Now, I don't think me and you are going to be hearing the audio, but there's some intense guitar music playing here, so just... Calvin, you can give some commentary on this since you know what you're looking at. Now here, obviously,
is Frankus McDizzle beating up some guys.
Oh, mean!
Laying out.
The Boston Bruins in particular. And here's a nice, let's see his hair coming out of his helmet there. The mullet can't be contained. Okay. Now, here's his ideal celebration, sliding stomach first across the ice.
I didn't even know that was in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
There's one clip in here where he just, there's that guy.
Oh, man, he looks into it.
Yep, you got to keep the fans happy.
Sit down.
Oh, my God.
Yep, just knocking people down and scoring goals. At one point, he knocks 4 people over consecutively. It's towards the end, though.
I mean, he's just out here killing it.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, backhand goal.
2 guys in 1. All right, it's coming up. Up there, here's Subban trying to fight him. Wow. All right, here we go. That's 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think that might be 4 penalties all in one play.
Coming back.
Oh my God.
He's just laying haymakers out here.
Good
So there you
Lord,
go,
man.
You know.
I hope the viewers of the show can enjoy that.
He really brings the physicality to it.
No, he really
He does. He does.
No,
Yeah.
I agree.
Now, I won't say, yes or no if I, pretty much just skewed the stats and penalties so nothing gets called pretty much. But, it's fun. It's fun. It is what it is. He's not getting penalties called, but, there's a good chance that it's, charging on every other time.
No, you're right. You're right.
He's just bribing the refs out there.
Yeah.
And you're slowly starting to hear the music creep in just a little bit. That means that we are going to be taking a quick break. When we come back, Brett Dawson of The Athletic LA, he will be coming on to talk about the Lakers and Clippers. So all you California fans, sit down. Stay tuned. Grab a drink. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gents. Welcome back to Three Bros Sports Show. If you're just now tuning in, I'm your host today, Connor Bergen. I'm joined alongside with me, the one and only Brett Snyder, Calvin Huber. And I know for the viewers just tuning in, we're at a different location today. I know this isn't the same studio as everything on TV Delmarva normally is, but we like to switch things up as we're actually recording at Delaware Technical Community College. Big shout out to them for letting us use their facilities and their equipment, and also because we're paying students there. And you'll see their logo throughout the duration of the show, but it's time to really start getting into the California side of things, especially for the NBA, as the Lakers and Clippers are dominating it right now, as they're both the 1 and 2 seeds. And who else better to bring on than Brett Dawson from The Athletic LA? Brett, how are you doing today?
Doing great, guys. How are you?
You know, we're just living the dream. I'll speak for all three of us about here. But you really have an interesting job out there as you're covering the number 1 and 2 teams out in the Western Conference. How is that, especially when you have to be reporting for such highly talented caliber teams?
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's my first year in LA. I was with the Athletic in Oklahoma City before that, and then before that I covered the Thunder for the Oklahoman in Oklahoma City. So, and then the Pelicans before that for newspaper in New Orleans. So I've kind of bounced around the NBA the last few years. And this is my first year in LA, and it's a little bit more Lakers than Clippers. That's sort of the demand of the job. I travel a little bit more with the Lakers than with the Clippers. I kind of fill in on some travel stuff. We have a beat writer for each of those two teams, and I just kind of go back and forth and center more on the Lakers than the Clippers. But this is a big week coming up. They will play each other on Sunday for the third time, and that's after the Lakers play the Bucks on Friday. So it's a big weekend in LA for kind of setting the tone of the NBA as we head into the playoffs.
Yeah, and most definitely. And in Los Angeles, it is one of the best markets to be able to write at with the fan bases, especially when the Lakers are winning. It's a totally different culture out there. I'm from California myself before moving out here. I was in Sacramento, and I think almost any NBA fan knows how diehard that fan base is. But Los Angeles, it's a different vibe out there. Now, kind of going into both teams, like when we're getting into the future of it, especially come playoff time, the biggest difference of both teams isn't talent-wise, it's height. The Lakers lead the league in having some of the most talented big men. And the Clippers, they like to play a lot more small ball when it comes to their lineups. Montrezl Harrell playing at the 5, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's 6'9". So it's a little different between both teams. How do you think that fares off going into the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, the way the NBA has gone, I think the way the Clippers play, I think they're the best constructed team, not just in the West, but in the league, to win a title. I think even though the Bucks have the best record, they've been the far superior team over the course of the year. The Bucks are the best regular season team. I think they'll make it to the NBA Finals. But the Clippers, I think, are the best constructed to win, and it's mainly because the direction everything is gone, the fact that everybody's playing a little smaller, and the fact that the Clippers have, just a ridiculous number of primary ball handlers, guys who can get their own shot, create for other people, and that includes their two best big wing players. Kawhi Leonard, obviously one of the best players in the league. Paul George, who hasn't really found the form he had in Oklahoma City last year, but has kind of been a little in and out of his rhythm because of some injuries. If they get him really going offensively, they're just such a versatile, deep offensive team with so many different options. And then defensively, the league has gone small. Everybody wants to play and spread you out a little bit. The Clippers just have two of the biggest, best wing defenders in the whole league, maybe the two best when they're healthy in Kawhi and PG. I think that's a big advantage to them. The advantage for the Lakers when we get into the playoffs is just they have the best combination of two players.
Couldn't you just say LeBron?
Talent.
Couldn't you just say LeBron? Like, you have LeBron on your team, and not a ton of guys in their first or second year.
For sure. But also Anthony Davis, who I think has reminded us at times this year that he can be a top 5 player in the league. He looked like that the other night against Philly. So I think they still have the highest ceiling of everybody, because if they elevate their role players, they're in great shape. The Clippers, though, it's an NBA championship roster. It's top to bottom the best roster.
No, it really is.
Yeah, I mean, I think any Lakers fan would be disappointed not to see them in at least the Western Conference Finals this season. But a news story that's come out recently, we're after the All-Star break, news stories are kind of spread out.
Yeah, especially with even with the March 1st deadline, yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to ask you about that open roster spot on the Lakers. Reports coming out that you guys have worked out Dion Waiters, J.R. Smith. Most people are talking about, they think that Dion Waiters would be able to fill that role probably better than J.R. Smith, who hasn't seen any action in a while. Do either of these guys make a difference for this Lakers team, or do you think it's maybe someone we haven't talked about yet?
I don't know that there's a difference maker out there who they could still get. One of those two guys, I think it would help a little. They need a guy who can score some off the bench. It's really one of the things that they fall off dramatically offensively when LeBron isn't in the game. I think the best situation for them would have been, and it was, obviously much discussed, that Darren Collison considered coming out of retirement. He's an LA guy, talked to both the Lakers and the Clippers. Ultimately, I think the Lakers had the most to offer him, but he decided to stay retired. He really would have solved their two biggest issues. They need a guy who can run the show when LeBron is off the floor. Rajon Rondo has been very inconsistent in doing that. And then a guy who could also play with LeBron and Anthony Davis, make a three-point shot when he's open, and be a solid defender who doesn't kind of crater your defense by being in the game. Collison would have done all those things. The other two guys, they do a little of that. You've got guys who can make jump shots. They're not bad defenders. You've got a guy in J.R. Smith who LeBron has a lot of familiarity with. And I think there's an issue there in terms of just, the Lakers have a tight and really well-constructed locker room. They get along really well. They have great chemistry. You have to be careful about what you throw into that mix. But those guys do solve some problems. I mean, I think they would help. Either one of those guys would help them just as a jump shooter off the bench who could get you some points. But they don't solve, I think, the Lakers' biggest issue. They're not playmakers when LeBron is off the floor. And they don't have that wouldn't be a guy who really you could throw on Kawhi or PG for long stretches and hope that they could be effective there.
No, I agree. And it's kind of shocking to me personally that Iman Shumpert hasn't been put into the rumor mill of that guy to fill in, because I'm a Sacramento Kings fan. So the difference Iman Shumpert made to that young Sacramento Kings team that almost snuck into the playoffs last year under his watch was he was a real leader and he was a great guy in the locker room. And it seems like he's that perfect defender for the Lakers when LeBron's off. He can create a little bit of offense. Don't ask for too much or else you'll get bit hard. But he can still hit he can hit 35% from three if possible. I mean, even Ryan Anderson or Omri Caspi, if you were looking for more shooters, it just seems a little confusing that it's just stuck to only those two.
Yeah, I think some of that is connections through, certainly the J.R. Smith situation is a connection through LeBron, and LeBron, as he does on every team that he plays on, has a lot of influence on what the roster is going to look like and what the locker room tone is going to be. So I think there's a level there of, there's a comfort level with JR in terms of LeBron's past experience with him. Some of those experiences probably aren't the most fond memories, but some of them are, certainly. He won a championship with J.R. Smith. Deion Waiters is just a guy who I think, if you look at Deion's history, he's very up and down. He's got some issues off the court. He's had some problems connecting with teams, but he also had a run in Oklahoma City where he was really good for them and really helpful. A guy who I think they really rehabilitated his image there. This year in Miami didn't end well. You have to worry about that kind of stuff. I think the Lakers aren't in a big rush. We've heard those two guys' names. Obviously, they're very prominent players. They'll explore. I think they'll look at other options. I don't know that there's another option out there that fits, but I don't think the Lakers are going to rush into any decisions. They've got this. They've got a roster spot, and they've got time and flexibility.
No, yeah. I agree with that, yeah.
I would definitely have to agree with that. I think it'd be interesting either way to see who goes there. But what I also wanted to ask you was, now the Lakers and the Clippers, they're 1 and 2 respectively right now, and for the foreseeable future, that seems like it's going to be how it is. So what I want to ask you is, who's the biggest threat to each of these teams to getting through the West? I mean, only one team can win the Western Conference, so who exactly is going to be their biggest threat to them? Or maybe it's even each other.
Well, I think certainly, assuming they're the 1 and the 2, I think everybody would expect them to play in the finals. They are the 2 best teams in the West, and I think that's by a pretty comfortable margin. I think for the Lakers, if there's a team you sort of circle down a little bit who they would play before the finals, the Rockets, given the way they played against the Lakers the one time they played with that small ball lineup, really gave them fits. When Russell Westbrook plays really well, he's a tough matchup for them. Now, Russell's a tough matchup for anybody when he plays really well. Yeah. He was great against the Lakers. But they just don't have that sort of classic stopper. Avery Bradley's a guy who can, he can get up and pressure the ball, but he's a smaller guy. Westbrook can rise up over him. Kyle Kuzma had some stretches in Houston this year where he was really successful guarding Westbrook, not so much in the second meeting when the floor was much more open in the small ball lineup. I think because the Lakers are so big, that kind of lineup can give them some trouble. Now, they can go Anthony Davis at center, and they've got some counters. But if you're just picking one that says, okay, this seems a little bit scary for them, that's probably the one. For the Clippers, this isn't I'm not breaking any news here to say they're probably going to be the 2 or the 3, and the other team in that mix is Denver. I think that's a little bit of a scary team for the Clippers in terms of, one, the size of their best player. The Clippers are not the best team in terms of protecting the paint. So I think it gives Jokic some chances to do some things, some chance to operate out of the paint, spray the ball around the way he does. I still think the Clippers would be pretty heavily favored in that matchup just because of the way they can lock up on the wing. But I think Denver's a team to kind of look at with them.
Yeah, Denver's definitely a sleeper team, as nobody really wants to talk about them as possibly even a finals contender as well, because I don't think anybody really saw Toronto making it. I mean, I could throw into baseball terms with the Washington Nationals. Nobody thought that they were a team. There's always one sleeper, it feels like, almost every single year. But the final question of this segment for now, thank you so much for coming on, by the way, is let's just say for right now, the Lakers do take the number 1 seed. Now, it's 1 versus 8 for the playoffs. And now the 8th seed is totally up in the air. It's a complete cluster with the Grizzlies at the 8 right now, but you have the Sacramento Kings, San Antonio Spurs, Portland Trail Blazers, and the Pelicans. You have all those teams battling it out. They're within 4 games of each other. Now, for the Lakers, what team would you see as the best playoff matchup for them, and what is one that you would feel as if the Lakers should try to avoid?
Yeah, I think they're in pretty good shape against any of those teams. I think they feel very comfortable, despite the fact they lost in Memphis last week. I think they feel very comfortable against the Grizzlies, who are a very young team. The Lakers have played pretty well in the other games against them. Just getting into a playoff matchup with a team that hasn't really been there and whose best player is a rookie, I think they feel good about that matchup. I think they feel good about almost any of them. If there's one I think they'd like to avoid, and I think you could see this by the way they played against them on Sunday, I don't think they want to play the Pelicans. Not just because the Pelicans they can be a really good team. Now, they're not a really good team right now. They've lost 3 out of the last 4 games. They lost to a pretty bad Minnesota team. They haven't excelled here at closing out the season and getting where they need to get in the playoffs. They still have the weakest schedule of all those teams competing. I think they still have a chance. But I think there's just a lot that goes on when they play the Pelicans. There's some emotional stuff. The trade that brought Anthony Davis here sent several of the Pelicans' best players there, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram. Those guys get pretty emotional about the games. There's a lot of those games are pretty much supercharged, and especially when you go to New Orleans. Now you add Zion Williamson, who's a great player, as a rookie, into that mix. They're more of a threatening team. I don't think they could win a playoff series against the Lakers, but I do think they're the kind of team that could take something out of you physically and emotionally over the course of even if it's 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the biggest things for the Lakers, as you want to make sure you can get through that first round as quick as possible, not use LeBron as much as needed to give them rest when they get into per se the Western Conference Finals. But Brett, I would like to thank you so much for coming on to Three Bro Sports Show. We do hope to have you on again soon, especially throughout the playoffs, and if any of the teams can make it to the finals.
Sure, anytime, guys. Give me a call.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was Brett Dawson from The Athletic LA, and that was some amazing stuff as we got to really go over a real contender for the finals. Now, when we come back, hold on to your hats, ladies and gents, as Grant Napear from the Sacramento Kings, he'll be coming on to talk about the Kings season so far. And welcome back, ladies and gents, back to Three Bro Sports. I'm your host, Connor Bergen. If you didn't hear the first time or the second time, now it's the third time. You heard it now. I'm joined with me with Brett Snyder and Calvin Huber. Now, I know we have a lot of amazing guests who come on, and I think this one has to be my favorite of all time, as we have on my childhood idol growing up for broadcasting, because as you guys could tell, I could talk about sports forever, as much as I really want to. And I never get tired of it. And that's why I think we're so great for this show, as all three of us could do the same exact thing. But nonetheless, on the line with us today, I got the one and only best announcer in the NBA, hands down. He's got smoke coming off his fingertips anytime he's announcing. You better turn those sprinkler systems on because he's on fire. Grant Napear. Mr. Napear, how you doing today?
You know what, Connor? That's great. That's a great introduction. So now if I ever get sick, I know who to call because you got all my lingo down. So that's all good, man. That's good. I like it.
I'm ready. Me and Doug, we can take over. Don't worry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You get your opportunity. You got to run with it. And just, it's great. I'm very happy to be on. Seriously, I'm happy to be on with you guys.
I can't thank you from the bottom of my heart for this. So I want to give the fans a little bit of a throwback to this. So I'll throw it back to the nice year 2017. I'm a local broadcaster for my high school, and me and my broadcasting partner, Tarek Ansari, we just got top 5 in the nation on NFHS for broadcasting. And it was a great achievement because that was our first year ever getting to do that together. And I just remember one day I wanted to see if maybe I could get some advice. And it's like, who else better than Mr. Napear himself? So I quickly messaged him, and I get to send him an email, and the response back was, why don't you just come to the studio? I'll be able to talk to you. And when I saw a message, my heart immediately dropped. I told Tarek right off the bat, he's jumping in the air for joy. And we get to go on, and this was hands down the best 4 hours of our lives, and we still talk about this to this day. But it's just crazy to see now how 2 local high school broadcasters can now, one, Tarek, my broadcasting partner, he now works at K-High Radio out in Auburn, California, and I'm all the way out in Delaware now running this show and podcast. And it's just crazy to see this turn of event in just 2 years.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank Mr. Napear for giving me that chance, and without that, then I wouldn't be able to get him onto the show. So it's a win in the end for all of us. But
well, you know what? I'll tell you. I think this is true of any profession. Like, we all have things that we look back on that have really helped us in our career. And I was your age once, and I was trying to get into the business just like you guys. And I grew up in New York, and, I felt about Marv Albert, Connor, probably the way you just, felt about me. Marv Albert was my idol. Marv Albert was the radio voice of the Rangers and the Knicks, and I wanted to be Marv Albert. And through a friend, I had a chance to meet Marv when I was in 8th grade. And then a couple of years later, I sent him some work that I had done a play-by-play. He was also the sports anchor on Channel 4 in New York, the NBC affiliate. And I'll never forget getting the letter in return from Marv Albert, and I still have it. And that was, 45 years ago or 40 years ago. I still have the letter that he sent me. So I get it. I mean, I think it's our responsibility. And when I say our, I'm talking about me now, to kind of, pay it forward to help out people like you and others, because, it goes a long way to be able to just give any type of advice to help someone in their career. So I'm happy. I'm happy that you reached out to me. I'm happy that you and Tarek were able to come down to the station, and I'm thrilled that you guys are starting your careers. I think it's outstanding.
Yeah, it really is. And personally, I'll just speak on my behalf of after that really was the turning point to me to really be taking this completely seriously. I just got the advice from the best in the industry, somebody who should be on ESPN, but he's in Sacramento, it was the time for me to really take things to the next level. And that, I think that's what's motivated me still to this day with my internships back at former ESPN station out here to this. It really, one small thing it's a chain reaction, really.
Yeah, maybe one day
Absolutely.
You'll help somebody
I'm
else
happy
with
for
their
you
show.
guys.
Yeah, maybe one day I could do it.
I mean, that's great. It's awesome. It's that's what this profession is all about, because, hey, you guys know this. This is a really competitive business. And I think the most difficult thing about what we do is getting your first job, getting your first opportunity to get reps by being on the air and doing what you're doing right now, or what I was doing when, I was your age, because that's how you improve, is by doing it. And that's the hardest part about this profession. So I'm happy to hear you say that.
Yeah. I could really just go on forever about that, but we did bring you on to talk about the Sacramento Kings. I promise that. But right now, the Kings are ranked at 27 and 34th. They're 10th in the West. But at this exact day last year, the Kings were 32 and 31, coming off a win against the New York Knicks. And I was actually at that game. It was a fun one. But throughout the city of Sacramento, I know I'm not there anymore, but throughout Twitter, it's a different feeling right now with this team compared to last year. Even a winning record versus a losing record. Now, what are you seeing so differently from the Dave Yeager era to this Luke Walton era?
This team has got better talent, number one. Unfortunately, they've been just really beset by injuries. this year. De'Aaron Fox missed 19 games. Rashawn Holmes has missed 2 months. Marvin Bagley's only played in 13 games. Bogdan Bogdanovic missed 11 games. They've just really had some bad luck with injuries, but, they're really playing well right now. They've won 12 of their last 17 games. They only have one loss since the All-Star break, and they have 21 games left, and I think they're going to need to go 14-7 to make the playoffs. That would put them at 41-41. Is it doable? It's going to be hard. I would say it is doable, but it's going to be difficult. But I like the way they're playing right now. And the big difference really is De'Aaron Fox is healthy. He had a really bad ankle sprain. It was a grade 3 ankle sprain. And it took him a while to come back from that. And even when he did come back, he wasn't the same player. He's been playing just lights out. And he has kind of taken this team, put him on the back of number 5. And I think that really may be the biggest reason why the Kings are playing so well right now. And again, they took Buddy Hield, who started every game last year. And 17 games ago, they decided to put Buddy as the 6th man and start Bogdan Bogdanovic. And since then, the Kings are 12-5. So there are a lot of reasons why the Kings are playing very well right now.
Yeah, this junior season for De'Aaron Fox has definitely been the biggest deciding factor of where this team is going to go. As personally, I was a little afraid with Fox at the beginning of the year because one of his biggest tendencies is he's too much of a pass-first point guard. You can be a Rajon Rondo, that's great, but that's not going to be – you can't be the number 1 player on your team like that. You have to have that little bit of a moxie to it of you got to know when it's time for you to take over, when it isn't. And Fox is really molded into that right now.
100% spot on. You are absolutely correct. He's been much more aggressive. He's looking to score. He's looking to get to the basket early on. No one started off well. The Kings had a preseason trip to India in October, and a couple of guys got sick. It's halfway around the world from California. I mean, it was literally an all-day trip to get there. We only stayed 3 nights and then came right home, and it was tough to get good practices in when the Kings got back. A couple of guys were out. Guys were exhausted, and that really set the Kings back. They started 0-5 this year.
Oh, it was awful.
And the Indiana Pacers, who are a really good team, we played the Indiana over in Mumbai, India, and they started off terribly at the beginning of the year. So there had to be something to that. But, again, that was a long time ago, but I do believe that's one reason why the Kings started off so poorly.
Okay. Mr. Napear, I just had a quick question for you. Is there a player on the Kings that you think doesn't get enough recognition? I know you mentioned Fox and Buddy Hield, and those are names that are often tossed around by maybe the casual basketball viewer who doesn't really, watch the Kings in depth. They might be a fan of another team, but do you think there's a player on that team who doesn't get enough recognition, whether that be for their play on the court or contributions in the community of Sacramento even? I mean, is there any players that are doing great things for this franchise that is kind of not being seen by the casual basketball viewer?
Could I take a guess?
Corey. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say
ahead.
Corey Joseph. Yep, I was going to say Corey Joseph.
Yep. Corey Joseph is he's won a championship before. It seems like wherever he plays, the team is good. He's a consummate professional. I mean, the guy has not missed a game in 3 years. He lines up every day at practice. He plays every game. When De'Aaron Fox was hurt, he started and was instrumental in the Kings having some huge wins during that period of time. He is just a guy that no one really talks about. But I'll give you this. Jerry West came up to Corey. We were in Los Angeles two Saturdays ago, and Jerry West walks out onto the court, and Corey Joseph is warming up. And Jerry West comes up to Corey Joseph and said, "Hey, I just want to tell you, I love watching you play. I love your game, and every team in the league could use you." And I'm like, wow, that's the NBA logo coming up and saying that to you. Yeah, right. Wow is right. So, I mean, when Jerry West says that, then that speaks volumes. The Kings would be nowhere near where they are now in the standings if it weren't for Corey Joseph. I mean, he's been as valuable as any player on the team.
Well, there you go, Sacramento Kings. Get yourself a Corey Joseph jersey if you haven't already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. Of course, I love watching Corey Joseph play as well. Now, I want to also ask you, since you're talking about Jerry West and some of the older guys, and you've been around the Kings for quite a while, who would you say has been your all-time favorite King that you've been around?
Vlade Divac would be probably at the top of the list. He's now the Kings general manager. He is one of the greatest human beings that I've ever had the pleasure of being around. He's just a phenomenal person. He was a phenomenal basketball player. I was so thrilled when he was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame this past September, and I flew to Massachusetts to be there because it was such a big moment for me to see him be inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. But he's just a great person. He is a humanitarian. What he's doing back in his homeland of former Yugoslavia and all the civil wars they've had back there with humanitarian organization DIVAC, by taking all the war refugees and finding homes for them. He continues to do that. You know, he was the head of the Serbian Olympic Committee for a couple of years. You know, he's really tied into the sports world, but you won't find anyone, I really believe this, I don't think you're going to ever find a person that has anything bad to say about Vlade Divac as a person. He is just a great, great human being. And so he would be, if he's not at the top of my list, he's right near the top of my list. You know, the late Wayman Tisdale was one of my favorites too. And he passed away, unfortunately, about 7, 8, 9 years ago from cancer. He was one of my favorites of all time. But I've been doing the Kings since the 80s. I go back to players like Kenny Smith and Joe Klein and, you know, from that era who still to this day are close to me. So there are many, many great individuals that I've been around. Danny Ainge is another one. Danny and I got to be really close when he played in Sacramento for a brief period of time. But probably put Vlade Divac. And then Spud Webb is another dear friend of mine, and he played with the Kings in the 90s, and he's one of the great people that I've ever met in my life as well. So those are some of them, but I'd probably put Vlade at number one.
Yeah, I always wish that I was born a couple years earlier so I could actually really enjoy the glory days of the Sacramento Kings, but we never know what the glory days are up ahead. As I mean, this is a really young core, and you were talking about Vlade Divac as your favorite, and as a general manager, I know a lot of people can have opinions about whether he's been a great general manager, whether he hasn't. I'm still backing him for the Marvin Bagley pick. I still think Bagley has way more upside than people want to give him credit for. And having him and Fox running on a fast break, oh my gosh. That's like having two Giannis's right there.
I think Marvin Bagley's going to be an all-star.
He
that's
will.
how much I think of him. Now, he has to stay on the floor. And I always tell listeners on my radio show in Sacramento, guys don't get hurt on purpose. You know, he didn't break his thumb on opening night by taking a hammer and hitting his thumb. I mean, you know, he right? I mean, guys don't get hurt on purpose.
You're right.
He's had bad luck, but that bad luck's got to change. He needs to now have a really long run. He is so talented. He's so gifted. You know, and again, a lot of people forget he's still only 20 years of age. So I have really high hopes for Marvin. I think De'Aaron is an all-star caliber player. You know, again, I know this is going to sound like an excuse, but I always like to use the word reality because it's the reality of the situation. Had the Kings even been marginally healthy this year, I think they would be the 6th or no worse than the 7th seed in the West right now. So they got a good team, but unfortunately they've just been beset by injuries. Is there enough time left with 21 games to make a run and get into the playoffs? There is, but again, it's going to take quite an effort to go 14-7. We'll see. It's fun. I can tell you, everyone in Sacramento's pumped up. I mean, it's like playoff fever out here, and it's fun to see. It really is.
It's crazy to go on Twitter and seeing a lot of writers who have always been more critical on the Kings saying, I can't wait for the playoffs to start. I think Kings have a chance. It's like, it's mind-boggling to me personally to see something like that. As for my teams, I mean, I'm a Kings fan, a 49ers fan, and an Angels fan. So we kind of understand not how upset I could be at my teams at times of, man, I wish I had like a one dynasty team. And maybe I do with the 49ers. Who knows what's going on with them?
That's right.
But with this team that Vlade has constructed, what do you see as the ceiling for the next upcoming years with them? I mean, Fox has to get his max contract, so money will be a little tight. We don't know what happens with Giles, but where could this team really go within the next 2-3 years?
I think they can be a top 4 team in the West easily. If Marvin Bagley is as good as you and I think he's going to be, then I think they're going to be a top 4 team because I think both he and De'Aaron will be all-stars. Buddy's been a tremendous sixth man. You know, Bogdanovic's deal's up this summer. I really like him and what he can do. The Kings have a lot of nice pieces. They really do. But it starts with De'Aaron Fox, and I think it's going to also start with Marvin Bagley. And the Kings, in order for the Kings to get to that level, then Marvin Bagley's going to have to be, you know, an all-star caliber player. I think he will be, but, you know, again, he's got to stay on the floor. So I'm pretty optimistic. This is the best nucleus or the best set of players or the best roster that I've seen the Kings have in a long, long time. So I'm really excited. But the one thing we can't forecast injuries. And, if De'Aaron Fox goes down with a bad injury, then the Kings are screwed and they're not going to be very good. It's as simple as that.
No, you are completely right about that. And right now, I know you can't see it, but I'm actually crossing my fingers, hoping that maybe that is some form of luck to make sure that does not happen, as I cannot afford to see Fox go down one more time. No. I don't know how much I can mentally take these injuries this year. After the 0-5 start, I was testing myself. I'm like, okay, come on. I can still do it. I can listen to Grant and Doug. Sometimes I can't watch what's going on the floor at times.
Well, not only did they go 0-5, they got blown out every game.
Oh,
that's
man,
another thing. There's a difference between being competitive, but they weren't even competitive. They were awful. And it was like, wow. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was watching, to be honest with you, because I thought this team, Doug Christie, who I do the games with, thought the Kings were going to win 48 this year. I had them at 45. And after watching the first 5 games, I was talking to Doug off camera and off air. I was like, God, are we going to go 0-82 this year? I mean, that's how bad the team looked through those first 5 games. But, the one thing I've learned by doing this a long time, and it's so true, it's one game can turn everything around. Like, you look at Memphis right now. They were horrible over the All-Star after the All-Star break. It started in Sacramento. Then they went out on the road and they got blown out all 4 games. Then they came back home and Sacramento beat them again. And since Sacramento beat them again, the very next night, 24 hours later, they beat the Lakers. Then they go on the road. They've won at Orlando. They've won at Brooklyn last night. And, it's just amazing what one game can do. One game can kind of get you the cobwebs out. One game can kind of turn around your season. And it kind of happened to Sacramento back then. They had a really big win. I can't remember who it was against, but it was Utah. They beat the Jazz for their first win, and it kind of catapulted them. And they got close to 500, and then boom, De'Aaron Fox gets hurt. So it's but one game, again, there's a lot of ebb and flow to an NBA season. And I've done this. I've seen teams that look lost, look completely down and out, and then all of a sudden they win 8 of 10. It's the strangest thing in the world.
Yeah, you're right. And even just with the Kings, the first 5 games, that first game against Phoenix, they were up 5 going into the half, and then you get blown out 70-36 into the second half, and you lose by almost 30. And it just seemed like, what happened? They were in it. It just, after that, everything unraveled. No, but I fully agree. And basically with the logo, where everything happens, like basketball and baseball are a lot more different than football, because football is more of a talent driven, but baseball and basketball are, it's kind of like a coin flip of one team could be completely on it and the other team isn't. It doesn't matter how great you are. I mean, we even saw that with multiple games. For instance, against the Rockets, when Nemanja Bjelica hit that 35-footer to win the game, Rockets never were on at all, which you just wouldn't expect.
No, you wouldn't. And, and what also was amazing about that game is the Kings had played the night before and beat Dallas, on a last-second shot, too. There's a lot of things about the NBA that factor into what you see on a night-to-night basis. The schedule is really odd in the NBA. The travel schedule can be very brutal, but sometimes you'll have 4 or 5 games in a week. Like, for instance, look at Sacramento. They had a game on Sunday afternoon. They had a game Tuesday night. They have a game tonight, Thursday night. They have a game Saturday in Portland, and then they're back home Sunday against Toronto. And that's like a crazy week. But then you look at next week, okay? After they play Toronto on Sunday, they have a home game on Wednesday, and then they don't play again until Sunday. And you're like, wait a minute. How do you go from playing Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday to playing Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday? So when you look at certain blowouts in the NBA, like, for instance, when Memphis beat Brooklyn and they blew them out last night, well, Brooklyn had played the night before, and it played in Boston and beat them in overtime, whereas Memphis had the night off. Those things really matter in the NBA, and that's why you'll get some really odd-looking scores or upsets or games that you don't expect just because of the NBA schedule. That doesn't happen that much in the NFL. I mean, yeah, you might go and play on a Sunday, and then you have that Thursday game, and for the road team on Thursday, that's kind of a disadvantage. But by and large, in the NFL, you have 7 days off between every game, and you kind of have a better feel of what may happen. Like, you don't normally see bad NFL games because of the schedule like you do in the NBA. In the NBA, it happens all the time.
No, you are most certainly right about that. But Mr. Napear, I just want to thank you so much for coming on to 3 Bro Sports Show and podcast. It's 2-in-1 today, folks. So you're getting basically double the content on the platforms. But Mr. Napear, I would just like to thank you so much for coming on. You have no idea how much this means to me personally throughout just this quick 2-year turnaround.
Well, I'm really happy to join you guys, and let's do it again. I hope that you guys have a great career. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep plugging away. Follow your dreams. And again, thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that was Grant Napear for us. I know the fans at home or anybody listening, I was fanboying with that one. And I do apologize to the guys for maybe not getting enough airtime on that. I do apologize.
It's okay.
When you guys bring on your childhood idol, I will not say a single word. It is your show.
Well,
I promise.
Christian Ponder's agent hasn't gotten back to me yet.
You guys can read more about Christian Ponder on 3brosports.com. It's easy. Go to the website. Click articles. You're going to find out why Christian Ponder is the greatest quarterback of all time.
A caveman could do it.
It is.
It's the last time you heard that.
Yeah.
2007.
We're also accepting new writers to come onto the website. If you have an article you want to write about your favorite team or something going on in the sports world in general, just send us an email of a document. Just create up a Microsoft Word or a Google Doc. Just email it to 3brosportscast@gmail.com. We'll read it. We'll give you full credit. And it'll be up on the website. Don't you worry. When we come back, it's time for the best segment that we've ever had, the Toilet Bowl matchup. Stay tuned. Yeah, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, for the final part of our show today. 3 Bros Sports, I'm Connor Bergen. I'm joined alongside with me, Brett Snyder, Calvin Huber, and if you guys are just tuning in, I hope that you got a rewind button as we had just had Grant Napear, the voice of the Sacramento Kings, come on. My childhood idol growing up, so I did fanboy a little too much. I still do apologize for that, but I did it for good reason. I promise, okay? Promise. I'm using hand gestures to show I mean it. But it's time for everybody and their mothers and their uncles and all the Billies, Timmys, Joels, Megan.
I don't think you've used the name Joel before.
No, I haven't.
Isidore.
Amanda's, Isidore, all the Fitzgeralds out there for everyone's favorite segment, the Toilet Bowl matchup. And we got a pretty solid one for this week, and maybe you didn't dig all the way down, but these are still, you'll find these in the toilet at any public restroom.
Are we talking like a porta potty, or are we talking like
any one
like
of
a
them.
Kohl's bathroom?
Well, at the Kohl's bathroom, they at least clean it. So we'll go
they
porta
have
potty.
nice bathrooms for those who do not know. They do. I recommend them.
But first one on the list today, we got the San Antonio Spurs going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, it does seem really strange to actually put the San Antonio Spurs in the toilet bowl, but they haven't been up to par at all this year. They're out of the playoffs if the season ended right now. They've just played really bad. I mean, Tim Duncan has a better winning percentage as a head coach than Greg Popovich right now. So a lot of things aren't going right with the Spurs. And then the Cavs, do I really have to get into them so far this year? I don't think so. Their biggest highlight was them acquiring Andre Drummond, and that was kind of it.
Hasn't done much for him.
Yeah, it hasn't been that great. But it's time to give our amazing predictions for it. And you know what, Calvin? I'll throw it off to you. Who do you have?
Spurs. Obviously, I mean, this team is better on paper. This team is better in coaching. And, I mean, let's be honest, it's the Spurs. This team really isn't that bad.
But Cleveland's at home.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, does that mean Brett's going to be going with the Cleveland?
No.
No. I mean, yeah, you got Kevin Love. Yeah, you got Andre Drummond. Okay, cool. I'm still taking DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. And if Tim Duncan's the head coach, absolutely.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I'll become head coach. If I got Tim Duncan and Becky Hammond as my assistants, I'm fine.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so all three of us are in favor for the Spurs.
I would have to say so, yeah.
Yeah, I could skip that a little bit. It don't have to focus on that a little too much. All right, our second game of the week, we got the Charlotte Hornets going up against the Atlanta Hawks.
A toilet bowl frequenter here.
These teams definitely will make it quite frequently. And you know what, Brett? I'll throw it off to you this time. Who do you have?
No, I'm going with the spicy pick here. I'm going Hornets.
Really?
Oh, yeah, really. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, please do.
My gut feeling.
Your gut feeling.
My gut says it.
I'm just saying, the Hornets, they really haven't played terrible basketball of their last stretch. They had a rough game against the Pacers a few games back, but they've been hanging in there with some better teams. I mean, they beat the Raptors by 3 on Friday. I mean, let's not forget. So I think a team like the Hawks, they definitely have the chance to win. I mean, like all those pieces that Atlanta traded for a few weeks back haven't really had a chance to contribute yet like we thought they might have. I think we were kind of just like excited to see what Clint Capella could do down there in Atlanta.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with this Hornets team. I think that they've been playing decent basketball, been playing well against certain teams. Maybe not better teams like Brooklyn and the Pacers, but I mean, I wouldn't say that the Hawks are better than either of those teams. So I'm going to go with the Hornets on this one. See if Michael Jordan's team can get a win on this one.
Okay. All right, Calvin.
Yeah. Even though Michael Jordan, this is his team, the Bulls fan cannot say that the Hornets are going to win this game.
Ouch.
I am going to take the Hawks. I mean, let's be honest here. Both these teams are kind of bad right now. At least the Hawks at least have some promise in their future. But, I mean, right now, Charlotte really doesn't have anything. So
They held the Bucks to 93 points.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Held them under 100.
Wow.
And you still got beat by, you got it up here, you got beat by the Pacers 119-80. That's almost a 40-point loss. Beat the Knicks by 6.
Who'd they beat right here?
Oh, yeah, I see the Bulls on there,
Yeah.
Brett. Don't you worry about it. But I also see plenty of other stuff. I mean, to me, it's just, this Hornets team doesn't really, I just can never put my faith in this team. I really can't.
I mean, yeah, they're tough, but
This Hornets team has lost their sting, people.
Yeah.
they definitely lost that. I'm actually going to be joining Calvin on this one. I'm going to go with the Hawks. I know that they recently had a big loss to the Grizzlies by almost 40 points. But still, this Hawks team, I feel like on a consistent they're more consistent as a team. I know one blowout, it kind of ruins what I'm saying right now, but still, I feel overall talent-wise, they have what it takes. Trae Young could easily have a big game against them, so I'll be going with the Hawks on this one. Now, moving off to number 3, we got the New York Knicks going up against the Washington Wizards. I feel like I say these two teams that they go up against each other like every single week.
It feels like they've played each other 10 times.
You know what? I'm going to start it off on this one. You know who I'm going with?
Who?
I'm going with the New York Knicks.
Of course you are.
Of course I am. Damn straight I am. After they beat the Houston Rockets, defeating off that small ball lineup, this Knicks team actually looks like they could have some promise. I think that's
Said
tough
no
for
one
me to
ever.
actually say. I know. Even after the Spike Lee incident with James Dolan, we could go on about that forever. Even they lost a close game to the Jazz, but still it was only by 8. They were within it the whole time. It was just a fourth quarter blunder that kind of sealed them. I have faith in the Knicks winning this game. I really do. And you guys don't even have to join me. That's fine. There's a reason why I'm in first place in the standings.
Well, thanks for telling me I don't have to join you because I wasn't going to anyways.
Yeah,
All right, cool.
We're going Washington Wizards, and I'll give you a simple reason why. Do you know what that reason is going to be, Calvin?
I don't know, but I'm intrigued.
Do you?
I have an idea.
His name is Mr. Beal III. And
Yeah, the one that the Sacramento Kings beat. Yeah. What about him?
And he's going to come in and beat this trash Knicks team, even though it's not in New York. I don't care what you say.
He's going to come into
I don't
Capital
care
One
what
Arena.
you say. I don't care to talk about Julius Randle. I don't care who it is. I think that Bradley Beal's going to put up maybe even 40 on this team. Call me crazy for saying Bradley Beal's going to go off against a team like the Knicks. And then, they're at home. The Wizards have a great home atmosphere. I mean, even for a team that's pretty bad and hasn't had success in much of the years, the game I went to, the fans show up no matter what the team is doing. So they're going to be there, and Bradley Beal's going to play well. And you got players like I really like Hachimura. I mean,
He's got promise. I agree.
He's not putting up
Yeah.
flashy numbers, but I think that, a lot of people were surprised with that pick in the draft. And I think, as years to come, he's going to develop. But, this team playing against New York, my gut's telling me the Wizards.
Okay, we can definitely. Yeah, I can see why you're going to be going with that.
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap it up with our final game.
Did you give your pick?
Oh, yeah, I'm taking
Yeah,
the Wizards
he
easily.
agreed with you on that.
I didn't hear his.
This is a team that Bradley Beal could put up 50 points against and actually win.
You know what? All right. You know how I am with the Knicks. I'll live or die by it for toilet bowl matchups. And our final matchup for the week, we got the Cleveland Cavaliers going up against the Chicago Bulls. Cavs make it in twice. Now, Calvin, I know as a Bulls fan, are you going to go with them?
Yes, I am.
I'm joining you. I really am.
Yeah.
I already had it typed in before we even went to it. I actually believe the Bulls could win this one.
I mean, like the Bulls, this game's in Chicago, and Cleveland hasn't exactly looked like a very good team. They're one of the last teams in the East right now. And the Bulls, I mean, they haven't looked great, especially as of late.
They beat the Mavs a couple nights ago. That's
definitely
a thumbs up for you guys.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it's nice, but then meanwhile you see a loss to the Timberwolves, a loss to the Knicks, a loss to the Thunder, a loss to the Wizards, a loss to the Suns. I mean,
lost to the Hornets.
Hey, I was the one who picked the Suns.
Another loss to the Wizards.
Pelicans.
I mean, it's kind of rough.
Well, this is just not funny to me because I mean, this is funny to me because we're not looking at the Timberwolves schedule. I mean, if we were, I'd be like just shaking my head.
You know what? If we look at the Kings, I'm fine with 12-5 as of right now. I am totally fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, your team's looking a little better than both of ours right now. Not to say any of our teams are spectacular, blowing anyone out of the water, but I'm also going to have to go with the Bulls on this one. I don't think anyone can take the Cavs with a serious face and actually find a good reason to back it up because they just haven't had anything going for them all year.
No, I have to agree with you on that one. I mean, this is going to be a little weird for how the standings go out because we all basically keep agreeing on the same teams. But you take a quick look at our standings as of right now.
Yes,
you know the one and only is in first place, but I'm not ahead by too much. And I don't like that feeling. As Brett and Calvin are right on my tail, only one game behind at 9-9.
Wow.
I know. It's getting tough because at least in the toilet bowl matchup, it was me and Calvin were kind of battling it out for first, and then there's Brett.
The underdog
like
coming out of nowhere.
10 games back.
I'm just curious to see, like, since our last episode went MIA, what our standings would have looked like had we considered those 4 games. Do we?
In all seriousness, I don't think it would have looked good for us.
I don't even
Probably
remember.
not.
I don't think it did.
I won't even go back and
matchups.
find it. I won't even go back and find it because you know what? It didn't even air, so it doesn't count.
I don't know.
It doesn't count.
Let's go with that.
People never heard it, so it doesn't count.
Yeah, we'll just keep it at that. But sadly, this is going to be wrapping things up for today's show. I do hope you guys enjoyed. I know we were at a little bit of a different area. But once again, a big shout out to Delaware Technical Community College for letting us use this room.
Sorry if you don't like change.
Yeah, sorry if you don't like change, but suck it up, Buttercup, because this is all we're doing for today.
Stop punching holes in your wall. All right, the whole place is going to come down.
Come on, Jaron, stop punching a hole in your closet, all right? Come on. It's fine. We'll be back soon. Don't you worry. We'll be back in the studio next week as we got Parker Fleming, SB Nation for the Memphis Grizzlies. He will be coming on for a fact this time. Don't you worry, folks. We'll be back. But in the meantime, have a good one.
Shut up and sit down.